Hello class, today we are going to talk about section 1.8, dividing rational numbers. The first thing that we need to know about dividing rational numbers is how to determine what sign the answer has. To do this, we use the same rules that are used for dividing integers. If the signs are the same, the quotient is positive. If the signs are different, the quotient is negative. Please take a moment to pause this video and write down the rules to determine the sign of the quotient. Remember, rational numbers are numbers that can be written as a ratio of two numbers. Many rational numbers are decimals, so I'd like to talk about how to divide decimals. The first step is, if necessary, multiply the divisor by a power of 10 to make it a whole number. The second step is, if necessary, multiply the dividend by the same power of 10. The third step is to bring the decimal straight up, and the fourth step is to divide like normal. Please take a moment to pause this video and write down the steps for dividing decimals. Now let's try an example together. Negative 24 and 14/100 divided by 3 4/10. We have a negative divided by a positive, so it means our quotient will be negative. When we're doing our division, we don't really need to worry about that too much until the end. Our dividend is 24 and 14/10. That's going to go inside of our division symbol. The divisor, 3 4/10, goes on the outside. Now, 3 4/10 is not a whole number. If we bring our decimal point back one place to the right, it turns it to 34, a whole number. If we bring our decimal point one place to the right in our divisor, we also have to do that in our dividend. So now we have 34 going into 241 and 4/10. We've completed steps 1 and 2. Now we bring our decimal point straight up so it's in the correct place for our quotient. Now we need to find out how many times 34 goes into 241. I'm going to say 34 is close to 35, so let's see how many times 35 approximately goes into 241. 35, 70, 105, 140, 175, 210, 245. 245 is close to 241, and that was 7 times. So let's try 7 and see if 34 goes into 241 7 times. So let's find out 34 times 7. 7 times 4 is 28, carry the 2. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 2 is 23. So 7 times 34 is 238. That works out perfectly for us. We subtract the 238 from the 241 and we get 3. Now we bring down our 4. 34 goes into 34 exactly once. Therefore, our quotient is negative 7 and 1/10, because we knew at the beginning our quotient would be negative, because a negative divided by a positive is a negative. Please take a moment to pause this video and record this example in your notes. Now I would like you again to take a moment to pause this video and try this example on your own. 19 and 2/10 divided by 64/100. After trying the example on your own, please resume the video to compare your work to mine. After setting up our problem, we find that we have to move back our decimal point 2 places to the right. In order to move it 2 places to the right in 19.2, we have to add a 0 on the end of it. When we move it back 2 places to the right, we've now turned our problem into 64 going into 1920. 64 goes into 192 exactly 3 times. Bring down our 0 from the 1920. 64 goes into 0 times. Therefore, 19 and 2/10 divided by 64/100 is 30. Remember, every fraction is also a rational number. So let's look at the steps for dividing fractions. Step 1 is to turn all of the mixed numbers into improper fractions. Step 2 is to take the reciprocal of the second fraction. The reciprocal is when you flip the fraction, so the reciprocal of 2/3 would be 3/2. The third step is to turn the division into multiplication. And our fourth and final step is to use the rules for multiplying fractions, which we learned back in section 1.7. Please take a moment to pause this video and write down the steps for dividing fractions. Now let's try an example together. 7/9 divided by 2/3. Since we don't have any mixed numbers, we can skip step 1 and go straight to step 2. The reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2 or 3/2. We'll leave our first fraction as is, 7/9, and the division we turn into multiplication. Now that we have multiplication, we look to see if we can cross-reduce. We can't do anything with a 7 and 2, but we can cross-reduce the 9 and the 3. When we divide a 3 out of the 3, it becomes 1, and 3 out of 9 becomes 3. Now we can just multiply the numerators by the numerators and the denominator by the denominator. 7 times 1 is 7. 3 times 2 is 6. But we don't leave our answer as 7/6. We convert it to a mixed number, 1 and 1/6. Please take a moment to pause this video and record this example in your notes. I would now again like you to take a moment to pause this video and try dividing 1 and 2/5 by -7/10 on your own. After trying this problem on your own, please resume the video to check your work. When we turn 1 and 2/5 into an improper fraction, we need to multiply our denominator 5 by our whole number 1 and add the numerator 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7, therefore 1 and 2/5 is 7/5. Now we need to flip the second fraction and make it 10 over -7 and turn it to multiplication. After we do this, we can cross-reduce. With the 5 and 10, we can divide a 5 out of each. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. We can also divide a 7 out of both the 7 and -7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. -7 divided by 7 is -1. Now we multiply the numerators together and the denominators together, and we get 2 over -1, which is -2. Therefore, 1 and 2/5 divided by -7/10 is -2. Before you finish taking your notes, I would like you to write down at least one question that you have about multiplying rational numbers and come to class prepared to ask your question.